born in the 50s, then this story will be very familiar. Imagine walking for miles to attend missionary schools, oftentimes barefooted or even alone. If you are a girl, the chances of early marriage were even more apparent if you came from remote parts of the country. What makes this story even more interesting is that our guest this morning never let distance or even her gender get in the way of her dreams. We are privileged to have this morning Rhoda Peace Tumusiime, the African Union Commissioner for Rural Economy and Agriculture, tell us about her story, which she has published in her autobiography, My Life's Footprints. Welcome to the show, Madame Rhoda Tumusiime, and it's such a great honor to have you here on GXP today.
Thank you, Carol. It's a pleasure to meet you.
I just read a lot about you, and I just feel like you're really inspiring my life. You have lived an amazing life. How would you describe it?
I'm glad to hear that I'm an inspiration to you.
Yes.
And in just one sentence, I can just say that my life has been that humble, with humility, accommodative, but also with determination. I think the background matters quite a lot. I was in this school where there was Christianity. Really, it was a place for Christianity because the school I was in, that's where Nyanji Girls School, had a church in the compound, and the leaders, all of them were Christians. The children were all singing Christian songs, but also we are living a life, even if you didn't say, I've met God, you'd be part and parcel of that one automatically. So that was the time also I decided that I must toe the line and move with God, singing and laughing and going to church and becoming a member of the choir in the church. So those things helped me, I think, to move forward.
Do you think that has changed in any way with our generation today? Because, I mean, there's more exposure today, but we find children knowing more than what, personally, as I grew up, no.
I think this is a globalization. Globalization has brought in an element of getting the youth move away from the traditional emphasis of Christianity, of Islam. You see what's happening around the world. The young people are now going into militaristic actions. That's not what, for example, Islam is about. So globalization has changed the minds of the young people. Also, the schools have not stressed. They have moved away from religion. And I think it's time that we look back and see what we could do to bring back that moral element amongst our youth.
You have written a fact-filled autobiography, putting to detail your journey to success, to your achievements, and of course to your struggles. Where did you draw your strength from, and you are not able to give up?
I think behind any achievement, there is that invisible hand which keeps on catalyzing you, keeps on guiding you. I can't imagine that one has to walk to school so many distances, I mean miles in distance, and on foot, no shoes, and you continue. So somehow God, I think, is there always. So first and foremost, God was with me.
Amen.
I can't say that it was me who was doing all that. It can't be an individual's hand. It has to be God. So my guidance, first and foremost, was from God. I had that also commitment. I had the power, the principle of saying I must achieve. I was a bit principled from an early age, and I had not admired people who had been educated. They were not available in my village or in my neighborhood. But somehow I said, I must, since this is school, I must ensure that I excel. So I had that determination of doing better all the time.
According to what you've written, you're about 2 people who were more into education in your village. And you know, as a young child, everybody has somebody they always look up to. They have someone they always want to be like.
Right.
At that point, when you used to walk all those long miles, try to read, try to have a dream, who was that one person that you looked up to?
I think my parents were the best I could look to, because the second person I used to work with, we were at the same level. But that one didn't continue working, she fell out. But the second person who followed me, I was like the first leader. The second person who followed me looked to me. So that means for me, I didn't have, at that level, at that time, I didn't have somebody to look to. So that is why I think in any achievement, somehow the invisible hand of God, God is at the center of each and everything. I think it is important that we put God first in whatever we do.
You had a prayerful life throughout your childhood, but in senior 2, you gave your life to Christ. What made you to proclaim your life again?
That time it was like initially like the order of the day. You were in a boarding school, majority committed. I mean, you would be an old person out to do that. But also having moved along the way where I came from, I think it was right. That was right for me to say, God, what else am I waiting for? I have moved all those difficult places. Now I'm in a better place. I think you have really comforted me. You have protected me. Moving at night, I mean, having no meals and traveling long distances, carrying the luggage on the head, going to school from wherever my village was to the new boarding school. So God was at each and everything. I didn't have any difficult encounter like the boys meeting you on the way and threatening to do whatever damage on you. So isn't that the hand of God?
Yes, it is. That's very true. You met your husband when you were 13 years old and got married at 19 years old. But today, getting married at 19 seems to be very young. You're such a young child. However, as a leader, a mentor, would you still take the same decision? And is there anything you'd love to change or do differently?
Thank you for that question. I think it's an important question in one's life.
Yeah.
I would like to say that if I had young girls now, I would still do the same, because I think Edward helped shape my life. Having known him for a long time, and also he was a Christian, well-behaved, and then I moved into marriage at that age. I think I can use that as an example and encourage young people to do the same, because it can give you time to get children early and then do what you want to do. It has helped me a lot, because I have found that my children are all big, so I don't have now any encumbrances to stop me from reaching the skies. So marrying early, I think, is good. It also protects you from getting derailed to the life out there. So yes, it's early. But along the way, for me, I had known my husband quite early. It may not be possible for others to do that, because once you know one another for a long time, then it's also easy for you to move into marriage life.
I want to read something here. There's a way you described your mom. She's the whisper of sweet inspiration is how great achievements begin. A caring thought goes. I must confess that I draw my inspiration from my family. I was born and brought up in a humble setting. My mother, a tall dark woman with big rounded legs, loved and protected me. In our village, they used to describe her legs as those of a banana sucker. Among my family members, I was the only child who had reached university. You describe your mother as a true inspiration in your life, but how did she help you and inspire you scripture-wise?
That one is a question I cannot describe in a very short time. I miss my mother, for example. Now she has not seen how I have really excelled and reached very far. She was an amazing woman, and she made sure I became confident of what I was doing. She made sure I did my preparatory work, but also I paid back and helped her in whatever she was doing. The more I went to school, the more I came back and really worked in the gardens with her. The more I went to further in school, then the more I did more at home. She inspired me because she was tolerant in marriage. You know, marriage those old days, you had to get children in the home, you had to look for the food, you had to dig the gardens. Everything was virtually by a woman. So she made me strength. And I really miss her so much. I wish she was around.
To hear this. But yes. I'm sure you must have told her. In your book, you briefly describe your mother-in-law as an amazing woman and as a woman who inspired you. But I would also love to ask you, where did you get that wisdom to have such a strong relationship that is rather unusual with daughters-in-law and their mothers-in-law?
Living with your mother-in-law, for me, it was not a problem at all. But I see that what I read, what I see, living with your mother-in-law in the same house is not easy. But for me, having married early, it was like she became my mother, and I took her as my mother. I ensured that she took the role of my mother, so I could not make any decision without consulting her. I allowed her to be part of the decision-making processes. What can I cook? There are guests coming. Do you think this would be fine? Because when I was growing up, leaving my mother immediately after high school, it was like I still needed the protection of my mother, so I made her my mother. For the years she lived after my marriage, she lived with me.
Do you think her kindness, her love towards you, and her understanding towards you as a woman who had dreams and as a woman who had a vision, do you think that shaped you in any way? Because today you are a mother-in-law to many.
You are really right. Actually, whatever I have achieved, it has been the power of the family.
Yes.
My mother-in-law has played and did play an important role in that. Because the years I lived with her, I was still young. And I got my children early. They had to go through her hands. My work, my early beginning of my work career, I was with her, not my mother. So she really helped me quite a lot. So I also really value her output into making me what I am.
Oh yeah, keep me from just singing. Keep me from just preaching, Lord. Sitaki kuimba.
Most Ugandans have lost a relative or two to cancer. And in most cases, it's believed that it's the kind of lifestyles we live. But then your husband wasn't a smoker, yet he got lung cancer. When he passed away, did that take your faith away from God, or did it keep it? And how are you able to stand such a huge blow in your life?
For example, if I knew that chemotherapy affects, we had limited understanding. He was treated on chemotherapy and he cured for the lungs immediately. He got cured. But then the chemo damaged the other parts. So cancer is a deadly disease. And I think Uganda needs to invest in this one. It affected me in a way, but because all along I was with him and looked after him, going to South Africa where we went, and biggest part was when they found out that it was cancer. But then the doctor assured us, no, he's going to be fine. And indeed, he was fine 2 years, and then he worked, but all of a sudden, then he started collapsing, and we found other organs had really collapsed. So cancer is bad. We must look at the different ways of treating cancer, not necessarily general chemotherapy. That one is chemo is very, very bad. Yes.
In what ways has your faith and conviction guided you in this journey of your life?
I think right from the beginning, my faith, both in God and also believing that one can achieve, has helped me quite a lot. And unfortunately, the young people now, they don't get exposed to this kind of environment. Of course, there are churches, there are these new churches which have come up to attract the young people. But I think we need to get moral kind of rehabilitation or moral action-oriented schooling, moral action-oriented training, and having churches around the schools. I think it's very important. Having even Islam, which is not promoting militarism and all that, is very important. Having all the regions are important in shaping the lives of the children. So it has really helped me quite a lot, and up to now, where I am, there's limited Anglican faith in Ethiopia. Yes, but you look for it. You look for the nearest you can go to where I live, and it's good. When I miss going to church or when I miss reading a verse, I feel bad. So it's important. But then our work is such that sometimes we're meeting on Saturdays and Sundays. We are traveling. Then I find that I'm missing most of the services I would be going to. But otherwise, I think it is important that we get our young people exposed more, especially at an early age. I think we tend to forget the early age shapes the people.
There's an amazing statement you've just made right now, that when you went to Addis Ababa, you had to. There are no Anglican churches, but you had to look for one, and that's something I've noticed even as I read your book, that you always looked for the church wherever you were. Like you were at campus, you had to be part of the church.
Right.
However, I also wanted to ask, you were a young person. You are a youth, a teenager, by the time you joined campus. And a mom, of course, a young mom. How are you able to overcome the temptation of not enjoying life as a teenager or as a youth, attending all the campus activities, but instead spent your other life in church and in the church choir?
I think my life at campus was an amazing one. It was too busy. First of all, I never attended a single social evening at the campus. I missed all of that. But one weekend, I would be traveling away long distance to go and see my family, my children, my husband. That's one weekend. Then the following weekend, my husband would come, and maybe we go into a hotel and be together. So I didn't have this time of going for dances at the campus. I never attended any of those. But I don't miss them at all. But Sundays, I made sure I was at chapel. We had a good chapel, good choir, and we'd be singing all the time. So I didn't, then reading, going to research, and then, you know, when you are busy, you are also expecting. All my days at the university, I would be expecting a child, because I was not exposed to family planning early. So immediately I joined the university, I continued getting children.
Also, as a person of career, you are a mother, you were a good wife to your husband, but you are also not always present. How were you able to inspire your children in their career, personal lives, and spiritual lives?
Thank you very much for that question. Having gone to the university at an early age and getting children, so the father developed a responsibility of looking after the children early. So he was all the time attending to them. So visiting, I missed many of the visiting days at school because sometimes I would be away. And when I went away, for example, to study, I missed the whole that period to visit my children at school. But he made sure he was going to check on them. So that kind of absence at an early time maybe helped to make him take my position as well in the family. But then also I had the power of the family, the larger family, extended family, my sisters, my sisters-in-law. It's that family which looks after the children. So we really work together in getting our family together.
Wow, I wish I could just talk to you throughout the day, but of course I have to stop here. But I want you to say something to everybody watching us here on GXP. And this is what I would like you to share with us. As a mom, a wife, and a person of career, and as a person who has achieved a lot from going to school bare feet, and today, I don't know if you know how many pairs of shoes you have in your closet. Tell us about motivating each other as couples. Yes.
I think it is important that we develop networks. We network and look at the challenges in life, especially at raising children, and also looking at how we can shape the children in a family way. Because if you are away and somebody else is able to say, hey, you child, you are doing something wrong, then that one helps. And that's what used to be. A child, it took a village to raise a child. But now it's like the child is yours and nobody else's. But I would like to say that my book, when you read my book, you look at the bare feet. I worked for a long time. Now, I don't want any child to walk to school barefooted. But I would like to say that commitment to achieve, but also looking at there are many households which still have limitations, as mine was a humble family. We had a lot of limitations. But still, the children tend to look at themselves. Many children have lost their parents to HIV or to what, but they need to know that you can achieve even with the limitations. You don't have to ask for this, for that, but you can say with a few essentials, you can achieve. The sky is the limit.
And about couples motivating each other in a marriage where you find both they are very educated, both they are very exposed, and they're experts in their fields. Yeah.
I think the Christian family has really made it good. We have Mothers Union. They really tend to help quite a lot, the married people. And some families have formed a network of a few families to be meeting once in a while, chatting on different issues, both marriage, children, and the world. So it is important that families keep on talking to one another, ensuring that life, even if in fact you can lose even a child, you can lose the husband or wife, but bringing yourselves together as a family, as several families, I think those will help and motivate one another. Motivation and the power of the family, the power of the children, eating together. Now I travel when I come from wherever I live, wherever I've gone, I must ensure that we eat together. If we don't eat together, I feel really inadequate in myself. Eating together is important.
Thank you very, very much for coming here. Thank you for honoring our invite, Madam Rhoda.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I wish I could.
As you can see, I'm really touched by your story, I must confess. And I hope we can have you again on the show.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate that my story has been able to inspire you. I wish my story can inspire as many young people as possible. And the young people, I think, if they looked at my story, then they know they can really achieve And achieving is about principles, it's about determination, but humility and God at the center is the most important.
Amen.